There he is, the one and only Dan, the Hangman Hooker. Congrats, Felder. You arranged all of this. You said you were going to do it. Dan came through. Dan, how the bloody hell are you, buddy?
Oh, I'm good. I'm close to a fight, so I'm a very happy man.
I just want to say, because I'm going to sit back and let you guys do all the talking here. Do you realize it's almost 5 years to the day? 2020, 23rd of Feb. What is it now? The 19th? It's the 17th. Well, it's almost 5 years.
I didn't even realize that. It's getting close to that night.
It's about time we had another beer together, my friend. It's about time we had a beer. It's about time we had a beer together. It's been a long time.
Yeah, dude. Well, first of all, man, congrats on this fight, because years ago, which is crazy that it's 5 years ago now, that's what we were going for, right? That's kind of what me and you both wanted. And how does it feel, Dan, to sit back and finally think, man, I worked my ass off to get to these guys, and now I'm getting these names that I wanted. A Gaethje, you've been calling for him. You've had Poirier. You're in the mix, dude.
I'm back, baby. It's a long time coming. There's a lot of hard work that's involved in that. A lot of ups, a lot of downs. But yeah, it's you just feel like you're more comfortable now. Like I see, like obviously you watch your opponent's fights, and when he fought, it was funny. Like when he fought Fiziev, when Gaethje fought Fiziev was like saying the same shit that I was saying when I was about to fight Poirier, where he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna walk, and then I'm gonna get a title shot." And you hear Gaethje going, "Oh, I'm about to feed him a whole lot of humble pie," you know. And because I've been in the exact same situation when you're on your streak and you're feeling like the best fighter in the world, and you get humbled and you get shown a whole new level. So to now come back here and be in the same spot and be, full of more experience and full of more, you feel like a true veteran that deserves to be hanging at that level now.
Yeah.
You definitely do, Dan. But as you just said a second ago, you said, I'm back. Because, there was a phase there where, and respectfully, of course, because they were top opponents, where you lost a few. But we're talking Poirier, Michael Chandler, Islam Makhachev, certainly some of the best. And I know you dropped down to 145, then you came back up again. And a lot of the time when fighters do that, it's like they're trying to find something or reinvent themselves. But you've now gone on this 3-fight win streak, beating people like Mateusz Gamrot, who is not an easy fight, Jalen Turner. That fight was phenomenal. I used to train with Jalen. I know personally how good he is, how hard he is to beat. And you did it with a broken arm as well. And now you're fighting Justin Gaethje, and you're closing in on a title fight.
Yeah. Oh, it's just like you have to start from scratch again. Obviously, you take those few losses, you eat that humble pie. And because you're always thinking about the title and how that I can get back to the title. And obviously I fought Perales, which was people then start asking, does he even deserve to be ranked? So you fight an unranked fighter on a long streak, you get past them, and then you go, oh, but he can't be top 10. And then you beat Jalen Turner, who's a very tough opponent, which I feel like a lot of people counted me out. And then, Gamrot comes across the table and it answers a question where people are like, oh, he definitely can't wrestle though. So I'd say, well, then you answered all those questions. You answered, does he deserve to be ranked? Can he beat people in the top 10? And then can he beat the elite wrestlers of the division? You answer those questions, and then you get a shot at one of the big names in the division that lines you up for a title shot. So it's just the next logical question in line that needs to be answered.
And Dan, like when you talk about, all right, I'll take on the Gamrot, I'll take on these unranked guys, you knew like, all right, fuck, I got to do the certain things to bounce back. And Is it frustrating for you to see other guys in the division and in other divisions where they just want to cherry pick every little thing and all that doesn't line up? And then you got a guy like you who's just like, yeah, I got to beat these guys if I want to be fighting for the belt.
Nah, it's like it's the two ways to the top, right? It's the time everything perfectly. It's to take it's the only fight when you're feeling at 100% and not injured and right stylistic matchups and only guys that are ahead of you. And we know full well that fighting in that way takes a long time to get to the title, or you can fight any comer on short notice, injured at any given time, and you put on incredible performances and big finishes or incredible fights, and you can skip that line a lot faster than a lot of these other guys.
Yeah. So just also, an approach. No, go ahead.
Also, Mike. Dan, you can go out and get yourself covered in tattoos. You can have because you've added to the bodywork recently. The ink has gone to a whole new level.
Yeah. I just kind of fell into it. I had everyone since my last fight's like, oh, what are the new tattoos? And I'm like, well, none. I actually have not been injured, my friend. Like it was a crazy time. I broke my hand and then I had 2 back-to-back surgeries on my arm. So that's a lot of time sitting on the shelf. That's a lot of time when you're not facing any adversity and not under any duress or struggle. And it's difficult for a fighter to sit on their hands. It's a difficult time. So I found something that was just as challenging in different aspects, but still like a big. I couldn't physically test my body, but then so I couldn't mentally test my body, but then I could still physically keep it. Keep the mind sharp.
I saw an interview you did, and you were kind of talking about that. You're like, listen, if I'm going to do something, I kind of seem like I'm the kind of guy that's I'm going to go all in on it if I'm going to do it. So you went big with it. What was the worst part, Dan? Which part hurt the most since it went from no tattoos to a whole bunch? Which spot was the worst for you?
Oh, all of them, brother. All of them. The feet. I can see why a lot of people don't have they don't have the feet or ankles tattooed.
Yeah, it sucks.
I can't even say that I picked that though. I went there for something else. And the tattoo artist just drew his whole way up my shin and all the whole way down my foot. It was a friend of mine, and then he goes, "You think I was going to come in here and give you that girly tattoo?" He's like, "You're Dan." He goes, "You're Dan Hooker." He goes, "Everyone thinks you're tough." He's like, "You need a tough tattoo, my friend.
You can't have a couple of angel wings on your back."
You cannot.
We got enough wings in the UFC anyway. Thank God we didn't go wings on the back, Dan. We've seen enough of them. Dan,
hold on. Tony Ferguson, Max Holloway. Who else is there?
A few wings. There's a few. There's wings.
Those are the biggest named wings, probably. But if we went through the roster, we could probably find
Anthony
15
Pettis,
people.
Maybe.
No, he's got something on the chest. I think
he's got
like his daughter and his father and things like that.
Sorry, you had a real question.
No, I mean just about the training camp and how things are going. How's the gym and how's the morale? And I know it's had to have been tough to see your buddy Israel just have an off night when he looks so good. How was that for the gym, and how are you guys doing as a whole, just with everybody on the roster?
Yeah, the gym's been pretty crazy, man. Like obviously we had Israel and Khan fight on that card in Saudi and didn't get the results they wanted. But yeah, people they kind of asked like, oh, you might, like we had a couple of days off after that. You know what I mean? Like because it's Sunday, UFC's on Sunday here in New Zealand. We sat here, we watched the fights, and then I went to training an hour later and smashed the training session out, and everyone was business as usual,
back to normal.
And then I've got my fight. Carlos Ulberg's fighting Jan Blachowicz. Then I think Kai Kara-France is getting a big fight. Alex Volkanovski is getting a big fight. So it's like we're like, if you have skin in the game, then you understand that it is what it is. The game is the game, and on any given night, any man can get his hand raised. So when one of us, when one fight doesn't go the way that we thought it was going to go, it's like, does it derail the train? It's like, no, like we're like far from done. I feel like it's like we don't know what fighting is down here. We don't know that it's a difficult game to to succeed at. We don't know the truths and the realities of combat sport. There's no realer sport on the face of the planet than combat sport. So if you think that we would be derailed by that, and like we thought we were invincible and we were just going to win all the fights and and it would be happy days forever. Like, Bubba, I started my fight career 3 wins, 3 losses. Like, I know the ins and outs of this game. I can take a loss. I can come back from there. I can be honest with myself, and I know how to get this train back on the rail.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, Dan, because it's all well and good being a Conor McGregor when he came on the scene and breezes through everybody. But most fighters, they work their way up. They win a few, they lose one, they win a few, they lose a couple, and you work your ass off, and then hopefully you get to where you want to be and hopefully become a champion one day. That's the path of most people. And it's all about having that mental toughness to be able to have the staying power. You know what I mean? You can't expect to win every single fight. If you can, awesome, great. But if you don't just throw your toys out the pram and say, right, that's it, I'm done. Speaking of losing fights, Justin Gaethje, as we know, last time out against Max Holloway. Max Holloway went out there, probably the best performance of his career. He looked absolutely phenomenal, seemed like he had the perfect game plan. And of course, we all know how it ended. Because of that, how do you look at this matchup with Justin Gaethje? I mean, obviously, we all know he's dangerous. He can wrestle and all this type of stuff, but he chooses not to. What version of Justin do you think you're getting?
Oh, you have to account for the best version. That's the only way that you can approach it. I feel like going back and watching that fight, I feel like it was a bit of a banana peel. I feel like he was doing. It was a very competitive fight. I think maybe even Justin was getting the better of it till spinning back kick lands on his nose. Like you throw that bloody thing 1,000 times, it doesn't land square on the nose, and send you left. Like, and you know what it's like when you get your nose shattered in the first round. Like, you can't breathe, you can't see. And then I think round 2, round 3, there was a couple of eye pokes. So now the copper can't breathe, he can't see. He's got Max Holloway standing in front of him. So it's like I don't take too much from that fight. Like, even like stylistically or technically, I don't take too much of that fight. I think those two fight 10 times. I think Max wins 5, Gaethje wins 5. I think the what most people take away from that fight is that Max outclassed Gaethje, but I don't think it's that. I don't think that's from my opinion. Looking at that fight, I think it was just a bit of a banana peel fight, and that the gods of war did not take it. Yeah, it's not his. It just wasn't his night, and the finish is the finish, and it's like you can't take so many incredible moments in your favor for a decade, and then one goes the other way, and then you don't know what it is, or you can't accept it. You can't accept it for what it is.
Yeah, it's funny. I forget who I was having a conversation with when we were talking about the awards coming out for like the best knockouts and the best fights of the year. And somebody brought that point up. They're like, that was definitely one of the best knockouts, hands down. That moment was crazy. But if you go back and you think about the circumstances and the shit that happened to his nose, and the fight itself wasn't the craziest fight. It was a competitive fight until the craziness in the moment at the end. But really, it was not that bad of a night. You're right. So is that almost like a wash, that fight, and kind of just prepare for Gaethje as usual? Do you think at all he wrestles with you, Dan?
Oh, I think he wrestles with me just like I wrestle with him. Like it's you have that's why we fight in MMA. So if I'm losing the striking, well, I'm gonna grab the guy. It's like so I bet Conor McGregor in Spain at his BKFC event and whatever. And the whole week
I saw that.
I was hanging out with his mates, and they're all going, yeah, it'll be a good fight. And I'm going, yeah, I'll just strike with him. Like we'll just stand up. It'll just be a striking match. Yeah, cool. And then I hopped in the ring to meet him, and I extended my hand, and he shook my hand, and we shook each other's hand. And the back of my head, I just shook my head, and I went, "Oh, I'm grabbing you." I felt that shit.
Like, oh no.
You've been there before when you just shake a guy's hand, and you're just like, I'm not even, nah, like, I can squeeze you to death, bro. Like, that's just how,
really,
that's just
I love
how
that,
I feel
dude.
about that, dog.
Oh, I'm taking you. I'm grabbing you, buddy. We're not even gonna bother with anything else.
That's strangle time. Like, I got this.
What do you think's next for the champ? Obviously, Islam. He's reigning supreme right now. 4 wins, most in history. Ilia Topuria is calling him out. What do you think his next move is going to be? And what are your opinions on him?
Oh, yeah. I think Ilia, or Charles or Armin, it's just the way that the chips fall. We understand that the UFC like to have options. It's just the game that they like to play. They never they always hate that there's one guy that everyone knows that guy has to be next, because then negotiating becomes very expensive,
real hard.
But it's like if they have 4 or 5 guys that make sense for the UFC, happy days for them, because it's like you can start negotiating with the 4 or 5 guys that you have in line, and it's however the stars align, that guy's the one that steps up to the plate.
I mean, and with the way guys step away, let's say he decides, I'm not going to even fight at 155 and I'm going to go to 70. And we're hearing so many of these champs now, right? They want to get the double belt and leave the division. I mean, do you feel like you get a win over Gaethje, dude, and you have a good, solid performance out there and shit's all shook up, all weird? I mean, you could be a fight away, you think? Maybe even people are being weird, not wanting to take certain fights. You go and get a big finish over somebody like Justin Gaethje. Where do you think you could be on a good night?
I feel like
you'd be right there.
I feel like a big finish over Gaethje, and it's one of the bouts.
You're
we're
there.
lucky that we got either the undisputed title or the BMF title is in our weight division, and it's if the stars fall that way, and it comes down to who's prepared and who's willing to capitalize on the opportunity. And we've seen a lot of other guys perhaps turn down their opportunity or miss their opportunities. So it's like if it came down to it, and the UFC was like, are we either gonna pick this guy or we're gonna pick a guy like Dan Hooker, who 100% is gonna step up to the plate, 100% is gonna fight to the absolute finish, then I fancy my chances.
Yeah, I think you'd be right there. You know, as we said at the start, it's almost 5 years since you two fought. Split decision, back and forth affair. Paul Felder left with half of his lung missing.
No,
what do you remember?
I was jacked.
What do you remember about this fight, Dan?
Yeah, well, it's the way that it had to be here in New Zealand. There was the animosity was just because he was coming to my home. Like, looking back at it, like, I honestly love the guy. Like, Paul Felder, respect him to no ends. Like, there was animosity that I created on my end leading into the fight, but that was entirely just because it was New Zealand. It was my home, and I felt like I had to defend New Zealand. Like, when it came down to it, I'm not letting another man beat me in my hometown, because you'll be 60 years old sitting at the pub and some old codger sitting across from you will bring it up. Oh, I remember when I went down and Paul Felder kicked your ass, and I have to lean.
It's true.
And I have to lean over the pub and smack some 60-year-old like, so I just had to. So I'm not happy with how it played out. that it was just a 5-round absolute war, pushed each other to the absolute limits. Yeah, incredible moment that I'll definitely never remember, never forget.
Bro, when I had to come on the lands and do the ceremony with you guys, you want to talk about like the craziest experience I had. Remember, I had to be part of the whole ceremony and take the branch and like keep eye contact with this dude the whole time. Meanwhile, I'm surrounded by people. This is their land. This is their people. I'm like, good God, bro. Then we had to do the nose touch, Mike, like with his whole team, bro. His whole team's lined up. And, you know, I'm trying to put my best, like, I'm not going to back down, but it was fully respectful. And talk about wanting to get out there and go after it. You're part of that. I mean, this is like, you feel like you're on the cusp of battle and shit. Dude, and the people where you guys are amazing down there, dude. I got to go back to New Zealand when we're not. Obviously, I won't have a fight lined up. I just want to be down there commentating or something because I never even got to enjoy it because I went to the emergency room. We got a picture together there.
I'll show you around.
Dude, did they shoot you with pain meds in the back? I've never had that in the fight.
I was in the same emergency room.
God. Yeah, when we rolled in, they're like, hey, we're going to take them in differently. Their opponents out there. We were like, oh, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, we just hashed it out. You know what I mean? I don't need
We're over it. We're over it.
I can't physically fight this guy right now if I wanted to. I couldn't walk. You chewed my calf up so
After 25 minutes, I don't think I've ever still been mad at any human on the face of the
No, right? And we always talk, and you know this even better than I do. You've been in there with even more battles since, but the respect that you get, and Michael knows this too. I mean, like nobody at home will ever understand that feeling of when you go through that with somebody else, whether you hated each other before or not. Respect has got to be given to that. It was incredible, dude. You're the man, bro.
Thank you, brother.
And I won't be calling it, so I'll be rooting for you. There's hands down about that, no doubt about it. Let's go kick some ass out there, dude. Have ever since, man. Ever since the fight, it's like, yeah, this guy beat me. I want to see this dude whip some ass.
If I could jump in because you two are touching noses again right now, or touching something else. Stop sticking your noses up each other's asses.
There's Michael. Always, if you get too sensitive on this show, Michael reins it in.
It's just a sense of humor. It's just a joke. We got to keep things lighthearted. Dan, thanks for your time. We'll let you go. Where are you? I'm assuming you're on a porch in New Zealand, in Auckland.
I'm on my porch in my backyard, my friend.
That looks lovely. Show us again. The garden looks lovely.
Where's the statue, Dan? That same interview I saw with you, there's some statue, and you were talking about
that's out the front of the house. I'd have to take her around the front.
Oh,
it's not a bad life.
You have to send me a picture of that on Instagram.
It's a hard path, the life of a fighter. But I tell you what, there's nothing I would have rather done or rather do if I was you. Thanks for your time. Best of luck against Justin Gaethje, and we'll let you get back to relaxing and enjoying the garden.
Thank you, boys. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Dan. Kick ass, dude.
Yes, boys. Thank you.
There he is.
Dude. I'm telling you, you know how it is. You go to battle with somebody like that, and that was a fight. Like that whole 2 weeks I spent in New Zealand, I'll never forget it. And you're right. I'm about at the 5-year anniversary of that fight. It feels like I fought him yesterday.
Yeah, because it's wild. Because I mean, I saw it on social media, 2020, UFC.com or whatever it was back in those days. But you had to go over there and do the whole warrior, the tribal ceremonies with them when you're actually going to fight in their country. That must have been crazy.
Like a few days before weigh-ins, going through the whole ceremony, doing the traditional like nose touch to the whole team, and I had to like take this branch in. I couldn't break eye contact with like the leader that was welcoming into their home and their land. And then obviously like the arena itself apparently was part of their land that they owned, even though they let them build and like run an operation there. It was still kind of recognized, at least from what I remember back then, that it was still their land and we were fighting on their freaking land. So it just like the whole week just had this like, as much as it was helping him because he was defending his land. Well, dude, you know what it's like. Well, I felt the opposite. Like, well, I came out to Born in the USA,
Classic.
When that hit, was I like I had the flag. Oh man, nuts.
The good news is though is that you're respectful, right, to the cultures and stuff like that, because they are, you know, they are warriors, the Maori people. Could you imagine? And we'll move on in a second. Somebody like Sean Strickland, if they brought Sean over there, he would have been mocking. I ain't going nose to nose or anything like that. Or it would have been kind of funny to see that.
Yeah, it would have
been
the reaction. They would have hated you. We would have been. They would have been lining up at the hotel to get a shot at you. Luckily for me, it was the opposite. Like I have so many New Zealand fans and just even Australian fans and people that came and watched that fight because of the whole week. And, you know, that was all being advertised everywhere because those countries that they're pushing, that's a big event for New Zealand in Auckland. So like I was everywhere and it was kind of overwhelming, but afterwards, I mean, all those people were nothing but respect on their feet. Just great night.
No, it's beautiful. It was a great night and it was a tremendous fight, Paul. I remember watching at the time. You should be proud of that moment. The people of New Zealand, Australia, that entire part of the world.
Great.
Solid people.
Yeah.
And congrats on that fight. And thanks to Dan Hooker.